All right, YouTube says we're live. We are live. So, hello everyone. Apologies for the slight delay in starting. It is early Pacific time, but here we are ready to kick off our hashtag Zero Waste Month interview. This is the last interview of this series. So, if you haven't watched the others, please take a look at our YouTube channel and we will be ready to go. So my name is Hayden Sloan. I'm the strategic director of communications of Race to Zero Waste. And we are joined today by a couple of guests from around the world, which we're very excited about. And two of our co-hosts from Race to Zero Waste, Daniella Menendez and Marria Evbuoma, who are going to introduce themselves here shortly. I just want to say that to our audience, thank you for joining us. Waste colonialism is definitely an important topic to be talking about in the world of zero waste. If you have any questions or comments during this chat, please use the chat box, which is to your right. I'm not sure which direction I need to point to indicate on the internet here, but it'll be over to your right. Please feel free to join in, make your comments. We would love to hear from you. And at the end of our conversation, we will have a few questions from the audience. We'll be glad to bring those to our guests here. In the meantime, I will kick it off to Danny to start us with our interview.
Sounds good. Hi, everyone. My name is Daniella Menendez, and I'm the outreach coordinator with Race to Zero Waste. So to start us off, I just want to ask a basic background question to you all. How you became involved in the zero waste movement and sustainability field yourself, and what moment stood out to you that made you decide to get involved? What was the main reason why you all decided to join the fight against waste? Camila, we could start with you.
All right. Well, first, I want to introduce myself. I'm the comms person from Latin America and the Caribbean at the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives. English is not my mother tongue, so if I make mistakes, I'm sorry. And since I'm based in Chile in Latin America, we speak a lot. So if I go too long with my answers and I speak too much, feel free to tell me that I need to shut up, okay? I became involved in zero waste and sustainability when I think all of us that are involved in NGOs don't really know when this moment happened. Probably it was just when we went outside and enjoyed nature and saw some garbage around and we got mad about it. But to be concrete, my moment was when I was a university student. And I was very interested in two things. I was highly interested in communications and languages, and I was very interested in science. Since I wasn't I'm not good at math at all, don't give me numbers. I decided to take the path of communications. But the science was always there. And then I got very interested in knowing more about climate change, about pollution, but I couldn't really find everything I wanted because I didn't just want to do research. I wanted to also get involved with real people, with the communities. So while I was studying some languages and also was studying communications, I decided to take some classes on sustainability and climate change because for me it's still important not just to be good at grammar, not to have a lot of vocabulary, to have good pronunciation in foreign tongues, but also to have a message. So the idea for me was to translate, but not to translate grammar or to translate words, but also to translate concept. I think it's important to have a good communication skills, but for me, the message behind it it's even more important. It's very interesting for me. I love to translate, to adapt messages, processes, concepts to different realities. And I think this is particularly important because the urgency of understanding sustainability and adopting zero waste practices is something global. But that's tricky too, because when something is global, it's harder to accept responsibilities. So that's why it's important to adapt the message to different realities. So we can have, we can do something to take responsibility to the extent of our, the way that we are involved in.
Absolutely, thank you. And Dorothy, do you mind introducing yourself and then explaining how you got involved in the field as well?
Hello, everyone. I hope all of you are doing well. My name is Dorothy Otieno. I work at Center for Environment, Justice and Development. We're based in Kenya. I'm the project officer for a program on plastic waste management in general. And so this story starts from way back, actually, and not exactly from the perspective of waste itself, but my father tells this story very beautifully. There's when I was a kid, I refused to eat meat. And one day he asked me, out of curiosity, why are you not eating meat? And I say, I can't believe that a cow has to die for me to eat this. I can't believe that something has got to die for me to enjoy a particular situation. And that's a story that tells about my empathy. But then it goes for the as I go through my primary school and my high school and my university, I have a passion for science that is clearly evident and everyone knows about it and I excel in it. And the irony of all of this is that when I took environmental science for my undergraduate and I didn't mind the unit of waste management, but I never imagined that I would end up in a field where I'd have to specialize in that. At that particular time, I was looking at climate change and biodiversity conservation. But then I got to be called Cejad, which is the short name of the organization I work in. And during that time, the issue of plastics and plastic pollution in the marine ecosystem was getting prominence at the United Nations Environment Assembly. And since it was also a new program within the organization, and I was new, I was coming in as an intern, it became automatically that, I had to learn with that program as it developed. And the moment that sparked me very interestingly, but aside from my empathy and love for science and the coincidence of coming in to grow this program was also the fact that in our first instances, I got to meet communities at the coastal areas and saw how polluted the shores were. These are communities that depend on fishing for livelihood. And so a lot of their fishing activities had gone down and there wasn't really much catch. And so the women were suffering, especially the women. And also it translates into more waste because now into the way that they have to spend long hours to collect plastic and not get anything valuable in return. And so this is an item, zero waste is actually an issue that has grown with me and we've grown together. And I'm glad to say that it's now my passion. I really appreciate with community.
Absolutely. I feel very similar. Marria, do you want to introduce yourself too? I'm sorry, I forgot to do that.
Oh, no worries. No, thank you. I was like, I just love listening to Camila and Dorothy. Thank you for that. I'm Marria Evbuoma. On the board for Race to Zero Waste. Also work in zero waste. Primarily in communications in the streets, but also doing a lot of outreach. And yeah, both of your all stories was like the science, but communicating and the empathy. And I think it's so beautiful to hear that common thread amongst us as we have to, how do we get zero waste into our communities? How do we get this big concept of waste and waste globalization to our communities, especially here in the United States? A lot of the times, waste and environmentalism in general among Black and Brown communities is seen as very far away. Sometimes, it's marketed as the sea turtles and the environment and not as people. And, even hearing quote unquote zero waste folks talk about oh, you can recycle this because we have a market. And like, what does that mean? Who's a market? Those are people, those are communities. So being able to be there and translate, but also have that empathy and the science, but kind of science, I don't know. I'll just, y'all can stop me because I love this, and I'll be listening and chiming in. Thank you.
I think we're all going to have that problem today. I feel like we're going to go over the hour probably because it's such a great topic to talk about, and it's something so important. My family's from El Salvador, and I'm actually here right now visiting my family. And I mentioned this already before we became live, and just like the amount of trash and plastics that are here and just littered on the ocean. It's very, very sad to see, and to know that the United States and Europe is playing a hand in these communities is absolutely horrendous. And I'm just so thankful that we are talking about it together, and we have such a great group of people being able to explain this for our audience. So with that, let's define, like, what is waste colonialism? Like, how can we best understand it and help those that are listening in to understand it better and the impacts that they're having with the items that they're purchasing every day. So I think we'll start. Dorothy, let's start with you.
Thank you, Daniela. I think I want to look at waste colonialism from a simple point of understanding of just usual and normal colonization. And when colonization was happening at that time, it meant that mostly the individuals and the from developed communities in the north, developed countries were coming into countries of the south to take control of our resources that we had, and also make sure that they occupy it and at the same time govern it. And so when you look at waste in that sense, it doesn't really differ from this whole fundamental or primary aspect of colonization. What is actually happening is that countries in the north, the developed countries, are still taking control of, they're coming in to make decisions for us, people who are living in the global south. Because when they ship in or when they export the waste, countries of the south have not consented to it. In fact, for example, in Kenya, our laws does not actually prohibit exportation of any type. Yet we have seen waste coming into Kenya, being exported into Kenya, and then the question is, means that we don't have control over what is coming in, which somebody else somewhere is making a decision by exporting country. Additionally to that is that, it's coming here to occupy it. The irony is that we, stereotypically thinking it's that those are the countries that should have ways, the mechanisms or the infrastructure to deal with that waste. But bringing it into the global south countries means that we're going to have much more problem than they have in terms of managing this waste. And also is an issue not only of waste as a product that comes as a result of, but it's also an issue of the design of the product. How are these products designed? Because that's where the issue starts actually. If that product is designed in such a way that even the countries at the global north are not able to deal with it and have to bring it to the global south, dump it there, then that is also an issue of waste colonialism. So it's not just about, me not dealing with waste where I am and taking it to some other country. It's also about, how do I manufacture this product? How do I design this product? How also is consumption happening, So if you're going to make products in a way that they're not going to be able to use the recycled, then it means that you are already propagating waste colonialism, because that waste is going to affect somebody else differently. For example, here in Kenya, for example, we have a lot of these plastics that end up in our drainage system. So flooding is not strange. We also see these plastics being banned, with open banning. So this is how now a perfect example of how we would deal with it, which is going to transfer the impacts of plastic production to other communities in terms of, open banning, the transfer of chemicals, dioxins and furans into other people's, spreading the issue generally, just so to speak. And also, when the ash is left over there and the chicken have gone to eat the remnants over there, and then there's the transfer of chemicals into the chicken and then they lay eggs, and then we depend on also eggs as a source of protein. But waste colonialism is not just about waste, also the impact as a result of that. But I'll stop there and maybe hand over to Camille a bit about.
No, that's perfectly said. It's not just, just to summarize it a bit for our audience, it's not just what we're sending over there. It's everything that comes after it as well, right? And it's all connected and it's all intertwined with the original impact of the global north sending the items over to the global south. Camila, first, I just actually want to introduce our guest that just jumped on, Marisa. Gracias for joining us. If you want to just do a quick introduction and let us know where you're streaming from and the organization that you're with, a brief introduction.
Thank you, Daniela. I'm sorry to be late, but I'm Marisa Yacot. I'm working in Fronteras Comunes in Mexico. So we are like a national organization because we work on political issues, and our organization have 28 years. So it's a long time that we've been working on the environmental justice. It's one of the items that we work on, and we work on against incineration. And in the last 3 years, we have been working with GAIA, very important project about the waste colonialism, and related to plastic. But before that, we worked also in that kind of issues with another type of trade, because we've been tracking the long time the chemical substances that come to Mexico, that they are not used in another countries. And we work on incineration in the technology that is not using in developed countries. We have it here. And almost the pesticides that I told you, chemical substances. Mexico is also one of the US recycling batteries, and is one of the work that been done a long time ago, 10 years, trying to track all the batteries that is coming to Mexico, not only the legal ones, also the illegal ones, because they are a big trade of illegal merchandise and bad technology that they are not used mainly in United States, and we have it here in Mexico. So I don't know how to say it in English, but we are the traspatio of the waste of United States. So here I am, and I'm very pleased to have this meeting with all these beautiful ladies and try to close the loop about the work that we are doing together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's great. So the question that we're going to be discussing right now, we're still sort of on the first general background of what is waste colonialism and how you define it in your community. So Camila, I'm going to jump it to you. If you can tell us what's going on in your community and what you're working on.
Well, since I'm speaking as GAIA, we have a lot of members. It would be a little bit unfair to speak for them. But I'm going to tell you what our members understand. And Marisa is perfect that she's here, because she was one of the main members working in the two reports that we had. And also Marisa is amazing. So she's better than me when she speaks. So you're going to laugh more with her than with me. But waste colonialism basically is an up-to-date version of colonialism. It's powerful countries using its power, its resources, economical resources, against the global south. That's it. And that it takes the form of a plastic bottle, it takes the form of sachets, it takes the form of waste. It's the transboundary trade of plastic, because that was we were analyzing in our last two reports. from rich, powerful countries to those in the global south. This wasn't the norm in Latin America, but now we are seeing an increase in the sense of waste to Latin America. And since we don't have the same resources as the global north, is something that we really need to worry about. When these rich and powerful countries send their waste to the global south, it's interesting because they send it to its management, disposal, or recycling. However, these exports usually involve toxic, difficult to manage, or very difficult to recycle waste. So they say it's recyclable, but it's not really possible to recycle the waste they're sending because we don't have the technical capacity to do it. So in the end, it's just all this merely movement of waste from developed countries to those that are poor and have weaker legislation. The thing that is legal, it doesn't mean it's moral. And what's happening here is not moral at all. This shouldn't happen. Especially plastic waste. It's not a raw material that countries need. Actually, what we need is to get rid of it. We don't need to use it anymore. We don't need not even a single bottle, either from the United States, from Japan, or from Europe. We don't need it. We already have this problem. So they're taking advantage of our weaker legislation. And it's upsetting because the major powers of the world, they say that their recycling figures are the best, and they preach the practice as something that we should follow because they're developed countries and we should follow their example. But many of the practices they're making or that they're promoting, they're not sustainable. This sustainable paradise that they're showing us, that they are telling us that we should follow, is just fueled by sending their waste hundreds of containers full of plastic to other countries. So while even if it's possible to manage some of the waste they're sending, other parts end up in destinations that we have no idea. Probably it's going to be nature, probably it's going to be in poor communities that they already had enough. Also, they send it to incinerators. We didn't have the capacity to do that. They send it to cement kilns. You have to understand that things work different. We are not like the correct people in Northern Europe. There are mafias here, and also that goes to the waste area too. Can you imagine? Are you going to like a small community going to fight against the powerful, the ones that have the money, those that want to make a business with waste? It's impossible. So this is what's happening. And these colonialist practices, I insist, they're only accepted because they are imposed under the wing of free markets and by those who are not directly suffer the consequences of these failed solutions of these problems to the waste price. It's something that they do in the global north, and it's something that the rich people in our countries do. It's just a matter of business. It's not even about environment.
Right. It's money talks in this type of conversation. And I think that's the most frustrating part. And that's what I think I really want people to understand who are listening in, is the fact that, you know, we are claiming that our diversion, our recycling diversion, meaning everything that's not being sent to landfill, this is the diversion credit that we're getting, right? And we're so great because we have this high diversion rate in the United States or whatever city that you're referring to. But the reality is that's not the case. And it's actually just being sent to these countries who it's just being inundated to these communities that don't have the technologies or the powers to say no. And that's just the most frustrating part of all of this. Marissa, do you have anything to add to this?
Yes. I think that it's not only a problem. I'm agree with all the things that Camila said, but I would add something else, that there is a political problem. This is a political problem, and to have colonialism, we need two countries in this case. So we are not only the victims. We have to encourage our governments to have a better regulation and modify the standards for this issue in plastic. And let me tell you something, because Mexico, the government of Mexico, they said that they are very happy to have all the shipment here, because like Camila said, this is an economical issue. So we are going to have a better economy now. But I think that it's like when a country have a political extradition, un acuerdo de extradición. So all the countries go to that country that they don't have that kind of rulings, and they are here. So our governments have to do something about that, and have to encourage the regulation, and have to have another position. And yes, I'm not saying that we are not the victims of this trade, but we can do something, and that's what that's what we are doing here in Africa, in America Latina, and a lot of countries that we are seeing that all the people is saying we don't want that, like China said, or other countries are saying now. So that's the main work that we have to push, because all the trade commerce, we have a lot of trade commerce in Mexico. Mexico is one of the biggest country, or not biggest, but is one of the countries that have more of the commerce trade here. So if the waste, plastic waste cannot enter by some law, they can enter by a trade or something like that. It's a complex thing, but I think that it's good to say that we are working on this, and we are working to push our governments not to accept this, and all the people knows that it's a healthy issue, political issue, commerce issue, environmental issue, climate change, and you name it, everything you want.
No, that's very true. I mean, I think that's the reason why zero waste is so interesting, because once you really start opening it up, it touches every aspect of our lives. And that's the thing that is my passion for this topic, for sure. Maybe that's, I think I did want to, just me personally, and I'm sure. Oh yeah, please. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, thanks. Sorry. I just want to actually share a story with y'all, and I do have a question to follow up. So last year, my son and I, we traveled America, kind of those flyover states, the Trump country, the red states. We spent a lot of time in, and it's a different world. And so we were in Oklahoma. We were staying at a farm, actually on Cherokee sovereign territory. And one morning we woke up and we saw these things. They looked like spider webs going across the sky, and smelled the smoke. And what is that? And it was burning plastic. It's plastic piles burning. And we talking to folks, farmers there in the sovereign land. They would buy the train cars full of trash and burn them, because there's no regulations, and on their farmland, because it was more lucrative for them to buy and be sold these things to burn than it is to plant food. So When we talk about colonization and we talk about zero waste, we also have to talk about decolonization and our past that was zero waste, where we didn't do these things. So maybe can y'all talk about how flipping this, the colonizer mind of, oh, money is wealth versus our water, our land, our fresh air is wealth, and that access is wealth, and kind of changing, yes, it is, the global north sending trash, but it is also, folks who have the colonizer mind and saying, yes, this is, yeah, it's just money and we don't care. So maybe y'all can talk about how you're help folks, you're seeing this shift toward decolonization that also goes to our zero waste past.
Well, I can start with that, the aspect of decolonization, which is very interesting. From how I look at it, if you ask me, I think this whole issue begins from a point of, production, because everything is meant to be produced for short-term use. And that has got to do with quality. So if you're producing, for example, I'll talk about plastics because that's where a lot of my work is centered. You're talking about, producing plastic for convenience, for example, but that is meant to be short-term, single use. And that brings the whole issue now back again to being unable to recycle this because their quality is very low. For us to go back to where we all started, because initially we were using, for example, I remember in Kenya, my parents tell me that our drum was packaged in metal cans. They used to, plant sisal, and that's what they would use to carry materials around. And so this is the kind of conversation that we're trying to bring back. Can we spur back our agriculture? For example, now again in Kenya, we are known for agriculture. That's our main foreign exchange income earner. And sisal has died, for example, but this was an opportunity for us to, there's opportunity here. Can we go back to that, grow sisal, and then also we can export these for countries that, do not have ready solutions for them to develop these products that we use for carrier bags. There's also the issue of even fast fashion, for example. How can we make items to last longer so that we don't have to deal with waste? And while we are also talking about longevity, the design is such that when it comes to end of use, it can go back into the system rather than it just ending up as waste. So zero waste actually is, how do we make sure that an item can be used over and over and over again? And when it comes to, the quality has gone down because of reusing it, it goes back into the system and it can be made into something new or combined with something new to make a product. So when I talk about decolonization, for me is looking at it from a point of production, which is where the actual source is at. And then also right now with the conversation of, the plastics treaty, addressing the full life cycle of plastics from the production, from the, the oil and gas or mining and all the way to landfilling and even exportation. Decolonization will have to happen by force, by law. We're talking about also the Basel Convention on the Transboundary Movement of Waste, where now countries have to be blocked from transporting their waste into developing countries because, but like the colleagues have said, taking advantage of our weak enforcement and our weak regulations to be able to bypass these. And so this international and globally legally binding treaties will come in to assist us to be able to fight these when our local, our local laws are not able to protect per se. Yeah.
Camila or Maris?
I can go next. I think we just need to enforce that existing restrictions on plastic are complied. And by this, I'm talking about the Basel Convention. Also, that countries really compromise in the future global plastic treaty. And I also think that we, for instance, in Latin America, we don't really need to look back in time, but to look what's next to us, because we still have the knowledge of our native communities, of the indigenous communities, that they they live and they know how to live without things we don't need. Because I have the opinion that zero waste goes together with the zero desire of having things we don't need. That's key. We need to stop the excessive generation of things we don't need. We need to stop being so blind and want things that we are not going to use if it's not going to last for at least, I don't know, 10 years. You don't need it. It's disposable. We don't need that. And also, that's the personal thing, the personal part. We need to stop that. We need to stop that desire. And also, we need to vote correctly. We need to demand action, and governments need to be serious. Not just something that we have to do. They have to enforce better regulations. They need to stop this nonsense. They have, for instance, in the research that the members made, there were no data, no easy access to data in customs. That's not responsibility of people. How can you do that? How can you provide numbers in customs? So basically, governments are allowing something that they don't know what is it. An example of that is that in Ecuador, for example, they import plastic because the classifications are really broad. So basically, they know they are importing plastic, but they don't know what kind of plastic they import. And the thing is, this was plastic used in agriculture, because also we usually think about plastic bags, think about bottles, but this was plastic used in agriculture in California, the green states in the United States. California, everybody wants to be like California. Well, California was sending its agricultural waste to Ecuador, one of the smallest countries in Latin America. And actually 50% of that treatment was just soil. And so can you imagine how much water you use to clean that? Water from Ecuador. And what happens with the plastic they can recycle? Well, they have to send it to the landfills of Ecuador that, if you don't know, they are living a crisis because they have no space. So that's the way how stupid these is. And governments need to be serious about it. And we don't need only to look back, we need to recognize the knowledge that is there, that still exists. We don't have to look we don't have to look up to the ones that are giving us the problem. We have to respect and to recognize and also to push government. It's not to do their job and to do it right.
Yes, I cannot imagine that we should work on this and get better if we don't address issues about the industry, corporation, governments, and all the trade regulation. That's what I'm saying. Mexico can be part, or it is part of Basilea, but also it is part of the OMC. So as I told you, if we cannot import by Basilea, we can import by a trade, and it's very difficult to say that I can imagine that we are going to have success. And most, Maria, when I go to United States, I always say, we are not going to make it because the use of the water, the energy, the paper, the plastic, it's amazing. It is amazing thing. So it's a huge tag that we are going to have, but we have to work together. That's what I'm saying, because as Camila said, California is the greatest state in the United States about environment but more than the 90% of the plastic waste in Mexico is coming from California. So and this is because they have a law. They have I don't know how to say a hueco in the law, but they have some issues in their law that can do this possible. So they are working on that. We are talking with people in California and said that, okay, we have to close this loop in our, we are working on that and gap, thank you. And we are closing this gap, and we are trying to improve our legislation, and we are not going we are going to modify that recycling means send the trash to another country. So the recycling is a key question here, because now the recycling is taken by the industries as a circular economy. And we have this problem here in Mexico because we are working on a law in circular economy, but it allows the cement kilns burn these waste as a recycling thing. So we have to be very clear in the meaning of the things, and be very smart to. We are also fighting, as Dorothy said, in and forbid a plastic of single use and something like that. But our governments is not working on that, and they are not helping. And let me tell you that we have here 28 states in Mexico that have been ruled something about against plastic of single use. And now we have in the legal federal court a trail winning by Coca-Cola and other companies that they are saying, okay, you don't need to keep this law, and you can go on with your single-use plastic. So we are doing a big fight here in a lot of issues in politicals, with the Supreme Court, with the Congress, with a lot of things, and with the United States also, and trying to work on this with a better and biggest scope. So, but as I told you, I go to United States, and it's amazing that the use of our goods and how all is merchandise, and how all is overconsumption, and we need to do growth and other political addressings.
Absolutely. I think that's the biggest hypocrisy of the United States and of California, again, just showing that, we're so green, we're so sustainable, and yet this is the reality of it. It's quite disheartening. But so what's going on in your communities then? Like, so you're currently working with your governments to try to stop this type of importation coming from the global north, correct? Is the community sort of banding together a lot more, or is it more of like the NGOs that are doing it? Who's really on the forefront of this fight with your governments and other institutions, of course, with the United States?
It's NGO, but also communities, because the communities, the work with communities here in Mexico, it's against incineration, because it's the movement that it's stronger here, and they now have a new problem about plastics, because they have the problems because we incinerate also hazardous waste here in Mexico, and it's correct, it's not forbidden. But as Camila said, the agricultural plastic here, it's a lot of big waste. All the management that they do is to burn it in cement kilns. Is the government management plan with the companies. So you can imagine that we are burning plastic. So and with the container, the substance in the plastic it's hazardous waste. It's pesticides, are pesticides. So we are also burning plastic and pesticides and other things, because we burn a lot of how do you say waste of the petroleum activity. So is the other big thing that we are burning in cement kilns, because we are a country that have a lot of petroleum activity. So there's a lot of things to change, and there's a big fight from the communities to stop incineration. And now there is a big fight to stop incineration also of plastic waste. So this is the here in Mexico. We have last 2 weeks ago the first convention of Mexican pollution on plastics. So it was good, but quite disappointing to see all the people doing signs and working without the connection with their reality. So they are doing a lot of experiments about plastic, microplastics, and a lot of things, but they are not related with the reality. So that's another sector that we should talk with them and try to keep a fight together, because all the studies should be in that communities that are polluted, and more than isolated studies about if the of the whale have microplastic or something like that. So we have a very hard problems of health about incineration, and now they are going to come worse with this plastic. And the trade here in Mexico, the authorities are not so open to talk about the trade that we want. We want a big trade. We want the marine pollution, soil pollution, water pollution. We want it to be a precautionary treatment, and to help all these communities where are burning these plastics or trying to recycling these things that are not recycled. So the only thing that we have to do is, I don't know how to do that, because the Cami is working on studies that how the petroleum industry, it's and all the fossil fuels are still growing up, and this is plastic.
Thank you, Camila.
Okay, I hope you cannot listen to the noise, the background noise I have. I'll be short, because as I said, I don't really like talking in the name of members. But most of our members are working in alliances. They have zero waste alliances. It's one very successful example is in Chile and Evbuoma. They're also working in Argentina with legislations very close with waste pickers. The same in Brazil. So basically, it's fighting false solutions and such as incineration and saying that we cannot continue with importing waste, not just because, as I said, it's immoral and it's third, it's also because it opens the door to false solutions such as incineration, such as these fancy names they give to what burning plastics, or like what names have like pyrolysis and grain fuel. How can fuel can be green? I would like to know that. So that's the work our members are doing. So it's basically preventing, paying attention, demanding information from governments that they do their job. They provide concrete information, and also the communities are affected because now the numbers of incineration threats is growing in the region. they're facing back as communities.
And then Dorothy. And then we're going to have one question from the audience and then a final question that we'll have to do it in sort of quickly. But Dorothy, please explain to us what's going on in your community.
Okay, thank you. So for us, what is happening in Kenya is like, we like to work with communities, right? So there's, let me start from here. What we do with communities is, first of all, to identify the communities that have been affected by issues of waste colonialism or, waste management in general. And once we have, for example, the marginalized communities, and I'm talking about communities that live at the coastal areas that are highly polluted, for example, by plastics, and we're talking about waste pickers who have to stay hours and hours picking up waste, this plastic waste that are designed badly. And so what we do is identify them and then sensitize them on these issues of waste colonialism, because it is very difficult to propagate any action with communities that are not aware of what is happening. For them, for example, before sensitization would be, it's plastics that we use, it's normal, but this isn't normal, and there's need for sensitization of communities, that realization that this is actually beyond or against their rights. Another such kind of activity is, which we're doing collaboratively globally with BFFP and other countries that are aware of this, is the cleanups and the brand audit specifically. Because now we have taught communities in Kenya to be able to go out there and carry out those brand audits with the purpose of highlighting the industries that are putting this out there. And so for them to take responsibility of actually reducing their production of these items that are going to be shipped or to be sent to developing countries in one way or another. Another one is, communities, for example, we speakers are now at the table, for example, at the United Nations Environment Assembly, and even here in Kenya, we make sure that they participate in any policy discussions on issues on waste. So, for example, yesterday, we had a meeting with our duty bearers in the Ministry of Environment, who are going to sit at the negotiations committee of the plastics treaty. And we made sure that most speakers were there to be able to talk about these issues that they're facing and how plastic is somehow the majority of the waste that they collect, yet the value is so little, and what needs to happen for them, that that how will they benefit, and what does just transition look like for them. But this is something that the vulnerable communities have got to understand the issue so that they can address it to the duty bearers and also to others. Another such important thing is, to train the community to whistle-blow, because sometimes waste is dumped there and no one knows about it. Only the communities know about it, and they have nowhere else to take that information. And so what we have done with communities is be able to talk about these issues. What are you facing in your local areas? And also training on advocacy, because now community-driven advocacy, because we have learned that, one person talking about that issue is not enough. You need an entire community together with civil society and private sector to be able to walk this journey together. And so they have been trained, our communities here, whether it's the West, because the communities at the coast, and how do they go and talk to their representatives in government at the local and the national level and tell them that this is our issue. A lot of plastics, and now we don't have fish that we're catching, and now our children are dying of hunger because we depend on this. And so that information is well relayed and is well understood by decision makers. I think the other issue that I also wanted to talk about was, how do we involve the communities in the studies that civil society do? And a good example recently also, have just been trying to highlight the issues of environmental justice to waste, because in the situation of, which also waste colonialism comes, because, when waste is imported into our countries, they go to the dump sites, and these are the places where they work, and they complain that what is coming here are those ones that we cannot recycle. And so, this affects their livelihoods as well. And so such kind of studies are important, because then they carry facts, and when we teach the community and how to do this, themselves, or we do it collaboratively, they have facts, and they have sometimes their community advocacy, strengths. And so they can carry these facts, and this is what is happening in our community, and these are the facts, and this is how we were trained on how to do it. And so a lot of capacity building, I'd say, that goes towards the community, which then they can use to fight. For example, also incineration in Kenya, there are continuous talks about putting up incineration and now the communities are aware of the impacts. But initially, if they hadn't known, it would be, we don't want waste next to us. So how, if incineration is going to be the way that our waste is, we don't inhale that smelly air or whatever, then we are going to go with incineration. But now they know that the impacts of incineration to air pollution and to the, no proper landfills, sanitary landfills for the ashes and what that will do to their health. And so they're the ones who are standing at the forefront and championing against waste colonialism in all shapes and forms. What's happening in Kenya.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's great to hear that the communities are getting involved, and it's unfortunate that that's sort of how it can't be top down, and that oftentimes it is from the ground up. So, but that's great to hear that that's what's happening in your communities. So we're a little over time, so I just want to start or finish with a last question, and then Marria, of course, I'll let you conclude as well and say your thoughts. But the last question that we have is, what is one action that our audience can take in this theme of waste colonialism? What is one thing that they can do to help the problem or bring awareness to the problem? What is the one best action that you all think? And we can start with you, Dorothy.
All right, so I was trying to think about this yesterday, and I think for me, one of the most exciting things, even in the midst of the producer, all stakeholders, the user, I think one of the things that we need to do as individuals, and I think Camila had mentioned it before, was, can we look at what we are using? And then once we have identified what it is we're using, for example, if I take coffee every morning, I know that every morning I'll be using, for example, a disposable cup. And so what, as an individual, do I need to do to make sure that I don't use disposable cups every day? And so that will be, I'll buy a reusable cup and I'll use that for my coffee every morning. So that way, as an individual, you're able to reduce significantly the amount of waste that you produce or consume. But that has got to go with an evaluation. So that, for me, one action will be spend a week evaluating your activities and your consumption and see where you can be able to change your consumption patterns to those ones that are more sustainable. So that would be my advice for you.
That's great. Camila?
Well, it's very difficult to just one, but I would go by saying that stop buying or desiring things you don't need, and pay attention to the change it makes in your life and the ways you're creating. And probably that's it's not the key solution, but it leads to education and to know more and to take better decisions, either in the way you are consuming or the way you are choosing your leaders.
That's great. And then Marisa.
See, I should say that the thing that we are doing with the Break Free from Plastic in Mexico. We are a very good group here that it's keeping together now. Since this year, we have a meeting in person, so that help us a lot in the work. And we are we decided to do this work. Try to know in the local your local regulations. Try to be aware of your local regulations to know if your municipality allows incineration or not, what regulation that we have, and start to work locally. Because in Mexico, all the projects, the mega project, if you have one mega project, if the locality is not approved, they don't start. So the local thing, it's a key question here in the regulation, because if the local people don't accept and the government, local government don't accept the project, they don't start. So the local thing, it's a very good issue. And we are also looking that if they have recycling facilities in their local places, to identify what they are doing and what kind of the recycling they have. And basically, and also work with the people that recycling is not enough. And recycling, we have to do recycling, but it's not the solution. The solution is stop over consumption and try to do that. And also también, also, sorry, also to say that the chemical recycling here, all the chemicals added in the plastic, all the people must know that, because if I have something that is recycled and I'm happy about that because I have a plastic that is recycled and I buy it or have it, and there's a lot of chemicals there, and you have to know that. And that's the main thing that we are doing, and keep together the local and the international and regional. We have a strong work in regional with America Latina, so with Camila and the GAIA people and Break Free and other networks. So, but encourage the local issue. We are very happy on that. And also let me tell you that all the plastic that is coming to Mexico for recycling, we don't know yet where they are going. So the government of Mexico, they don't talk with us about what this plastic is going, but we know that most of or a big amount of plastic is burning in the cement kilns. So we are working in this year, next year, that line of the work, but local strength is very powerful.
Thank you so much. Marria, do you want to add any closing thoughts?
I just want to thank you all for being light bearers and sharing your light. I really believe, no matter if it's folks on the grounds or leaders on top, and everyone in between, there's a consciousness that we all have to tap into. So when we have these conversations, when we are seen and we allow ourselves to be seen and our work to be seen, we're sharing that consciousness. And just thank you for sharing your light, and it's getting brighter.
I also want to thank you all so much for joining us today. I think it's really, oh, I'm sorry, Camila, were you about to speak? Go for it.
No, I was just going to thank the opportunity to share what's happening.
Yeah, I think it's, this is such an important topic, and it's one that's close to my heart. And I just appreciate you all so much for taking time out of your day to be here and talk about this. And I wanted to ask if we're able to share maybe your contact information for people who have more questions on this topic, for them to reach out to you if that's possible. And then to share with your networks as well, this interview series, and just so we can get the word out, and hashtag Race to Zero Waste and hashtag Zero Waste Month would be perfect. So thank you all so much. I truly, truly appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be with you, and we hope to keep together and know more each other.
Thank you all so much for having us. It was great.
Gracias.
All right, folks. I'll say thank you to our audience for joining us. Thank you for those who were able to send in questions. Again, if you have other questions, follow us at Race to Zero Waste. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So we'll see you there. If you have any questions about waste colonialism, definitely look up these amazing organizations that our interviewees work with. You can see them linked down in the description of this YouTube video. And be sure that you post your actions for hashtag Zero Waste Month. Tell us what you're doing, what you learned, what you want to try. We're so glad to hear from you. So thanks, everyone.